We're here in George's Plains just outside of Bathurst to visit another trainer. This time we're going to call in on Bernie Hewitt. Bernie's been a very successful trainer for many years and has had plenty of success in the sport and has competed in some of the sport's biggest races. Let's go in and meet Bernie. Bernie, thanks for showing us inside your stable. Tell us a little bit about the property.
Well, Greg, we've been here about 14 years. We sort of come here from Crookwell to train horses. So it's about a 90-acre property, and we sort of put the tracks in ourselves and did our fencing and stables and so forth. So it's been a lot of years sort of on the building side of things and working hard. So finally we got it to a stage where we're training winners, and hopefully it continues.
What about the track? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the track itself, so the outside track, hobble track's about 800 metre track, and it's got a limestone surface on it. And the inside track is 700 metres, our jog track, and we also gallop on that track. It's a sand-based track, so we actually retrieve the sand out of the creek below the house here. So it's sort of they're both pretty handy tracks.
When you first arrived at the property, was there much here, or you've had to do it all yourself?
It was basically just a few big paddocks and a lot of old fencing, so we had to pull all of that down and basically put fencing up to get going the way we wanted to. Yeah.
And how many horses do you have at the moment?
We've got about there's probably about 35 in work. It's sort of been fluctuating between 35 and 40. Matt, Rue and Jem have got a couple of horses here, about half a dozen, so they've sort of made the team a little bit bigger than normal. And we've got a few yearlings now breaking in, a couple out of Brisbane, a couple out of Sydney, and then next week there'll be some more come out of Bathurst sales. So sort of numbers will be up around that sort of 40 mark again.
So with a team that big, how many people do you need to help you here?
Well, there's about 4 or 5 of us here all the time. There's Kath and I, and then there's Matt. Jem comes out when she gets time off her work and spare day, so she's out here a lot. Ben Battle and another young girl called Abby Palmer, she helps out, and so there's a few of us here to kick along. Yeah.
You mentioned the move from Crookwell. The reason behind that move, did you think that it was time for you to go out on your own? Peter Neal was keen to train a team, and he asked me to train his team, so I thought I couldn't do it from home because we were sort of overstocked as it was at home with Dad and David and myself, all their training horses out of the one complex, and he had quite a few numbers at that stage to train, so I thought it was a good idea or a good chance to sort of move out and try and make a go of it myself, so that was the reason why. And so I wasn't that keen to go to Sydney, and rear the kids in the city. So we often travelled to Bathurst to race and enjoyed the racing over here. And the sport's always been strong up here at Bathurst. So it's only an hour and a half back to Crookwell from here. So I decided to come here with the family, and so Kath and I settled the kids here, and Kath settled them into school. I finished up things down home, and then we come up here and started looking for a property, and we rented at Steve Turnbull's and lived there for a while in his little house, and rented stables off Jimmy and old Jenny Turnbull and Terry and Peter. So we stabled there for a while, so it was quite good. The story goes when Smooth Satin with the kidnap attempt that you guys were actually heard. Kath heard what was going on and called out to you.
Yeah, well, we were both in the lounge room with the kids, and we're all watching TV, and I think it was only about 9 o'clock at night or something. It wasn't that late, and there was a loud bang, and we all sort of stood to attention basically and wondered what the noise was, and because often living right near the stables, we go and check on the horses if one got cast or whatever. And so anyway, Kath went out to have a look, and
when she went out, there was a guy leading a horse up in the dark, and he said to Kath, "Don't worry, Kath, it's only Craig." And so Kath come scurrying back in. She said what she saw, and she said, "But I know it wasn't Craig." She said it was a big guy, and it wasn't Craig that was, and there was another guy walking along behind him in the dark. So that was, we're all sort of wondering what happened. So with that, we sort of rushed out and lights went on, and next thing we could hear a car accelerating away and spinning gravel up, and Jason ran out to Smith Satin Stable, which is just straight across, and he come racing back and he said Socks isn't in his stable. So we're all in a bit of a panic at this stage, and with the car sort of taken off 100 mile an hour, so I quickly rang Stephen and said, "Where's Socks?" You know, I said, did he go to the vet, or is he gone somewhere? And Stephen just laughed, and he thought I was having him on, you know. I said, "Mate, he's not in his stable." I said, "Someone's just took off, and I think they've pinched him, you know." And he continued to laugh at me because he thought I was having him on. Mm. So I ended up slamming the phone down. I said, "Mate, I'm going after him." And I think when I slammed the phone down, he realised that I was fair dinkum. So by this time, Kath had got the car out, and I jumped in the car, and the kids were scurrying in and out, sort of in a bit of a panic, and we drove up around towards AD's stables to go in the direction the car went, and I saw a horse tied up on the jogger, and so I jumped out, and I forget what it was, but he had a little scar on his leg, and in the dark, you know, we had the lights sort of shine at him, but he had his bum at us, and I went around and just sort of run my hand down his leg and had a look at him, and I said, "This is Socks, all right." So whoever it was had left him tied up on the jogger. So I yelled out to Jason, Jem and Dougie and said, "Look, tell Steve that the horse is on the jogger, but I'm going after him," you know. So I jumped in and then drove, and we flew up the roads and down towards Perthville. I just sort of went where I thought they might go, you know, and flew into Perthville and dropped Kath off at the pub there because she'd been working there. I said, "Jump out and ring the coppers, you know, and let them know what's happening." Yep. So she did that, and I continued on. I went back towards town, and then I took a back road back across Gorman's Hill Road, actually, and just sort of looking for a vehicle that might have been able to tow a trailer, you know. And I thought, well, they might have even dumped it by now. So anyway, I was driving along, and then I headed back towards the lagoon, just going slow, and I was slowing up at each car that, you know, was to see if there was a small car or a big car or whatever. And then some lights coming across this other road from Perthville, and so I waited for it to come, and when it came, I just left my lights on high beam, and as soon as I did, it just took off. So it took off back towards Bathurst, 100 mile an hour. So I did a U-ey. I had to go up a little bit and then do a U-ey and chased it, and I couldn't catch it. It come back down onto the main road, and there was other cars travelling along there. And anyway, I chased it back in towards town, but lost it. So, but I did get its number plate by, you know, leaving the lights on. So sure enough, later on, that was the vehicle that was towing the float, because they actually dumped it in Perthville. And so when the detectives sort of saw me in a couple of days' time, I just told them that I had the number plate of this vehicle that took off, you know. So sure enough, that was the one that actually tried to pinch him, yeah.
Bit like a movie plot, something like that.
Yeah. Well, it still makes me wonder to this day what would have happened. They pinched the horse float too to do the job, and it was an older float, and it wasn't a spring-loaded door, and I'd say they were used to a spring-loaded door, and when they've went to let it down, it's got away on them, been pretty heavy, and because they parked on the concrete wash bay, it's made a hell of a bang, and that's the only reason that it was foiled, really, because otherwise we wouldn't have heard him sort of wander off there with the horse, and it would have been taken off to somewhere, and Lord only knows what would have happened to him then.
Yeah. Take us back to your early days, and was it always going to be harness racing for you?
Yeah, it was actually. We, you know, going back to the school days and that sort of thing, we used to, you know, get up and work horses before school, and back in those days we didn't even have a track at home. We used to go across to my grandfather's place, and we used to have to gear them up and tie our boots on the shafts and crossbars and that sort of thing, and go through the paddocks and go through the creeks and over to grandfather's place. And you'd do this all year, and even in the winter time it was freezing cold, you know, and then when you got over to grandfather's place, you'd hook the horses up and put all the boots on them because their legs would be, you know, virtually dry by then, and boot them up and then do the fast work, and then unboot them again, take them home, wash them, fly inside, have a quick shower, and breakfast if you had time, and on the bus and into town. So we did that for years and years, Mark and David and I, and Jen Picker. She married Grant, you know Grant. So we all did this for years and years, so it was always sort of in our blood. And I know when Dad used to race, you know, used to race a lot at Kembla Grange and Canberra and different places during the week, and Menangle, the old Menangle track. And I'd always sneak a transistor in my school port, and then you'd have to go to the toilet about race time and down under the stairwell and trying to pick up the races. And I had a cousin who used to come with me because he was pretty interested too. That was Robert, and yeah, we'd be down under the stairwell, listen to the races, and then back into class. Then after the races, either kicking our heels or dragging our feet, one or the other, depending on the result. But yeah, it was always pretty keen, so it was sort of one of those things we're always going to do.
Were you much of a student?
I was fair at English, and you know, sport was always a big thing for me too. English and that. I always struggled a bit at maths and science and that sort of thing. They always had me in the A grade. I don't know why, because I think I was only a reserve A grader for sure in those sort of classes. But yeah, no, I didn't go too bad. But my heart was never really into the academic side of things. I was always keen to get out and play sport or do the horses, you know.
Make sure you watch part 2 of Inside My Stable with Bernie Hewitt on Trots TV, where Bernie reminisces about some of the talented horses that he's worked with during his career, and he also talks about his children.